Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, depending on where you are. This is our third live stream of Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020. This is going to be kind of an interesting little experiment because I've actually asked the community quite a bit to see what they were looking to see in a flight and where we'd like to see it. And now we ended up here in lovely Central Europe. This is Czechia, also known as the Czech Republic. I guarantee that I'm going to accidentally say Czechoslovakia one or two times here, but we'll talk about that. We're going to be flying the Cirrus SR-22 today, which is one of the, I think, premium deluxe aircraft. So, this is going to be a little different. Not everybody's going to be doing it, but we'll go ahead and walk you through the basic startup. We'll walk you through how we're going to do our arrival, how we're going to do our approach, and hopefully we see everybody at our ultimate destination, which we're going to be seeing in just a minute. So let's go ahead and pop inside the aircraft, and let's go ahead and make sure everything's looking good here. Pretty good, pretty good. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at what this craziness is actually going to be looking like for us today. So I'm going to go ahead and flip on Chrome real quick so you can take a look. And we are going to be traveling out of, this is Tabor Airport. This is actually a grass runway, which is down here in the south part of Czechia. We're going to proceed up to Vlasim VOR using, again, radio navigation. We're going to swing around and try to find this waypoint right here. This is Ekrot, and this is going to be our initial approach point to go ahead and land our aircraft. Now, one thing I did notice when I was checking the weather this morning is that we have a tremendously strong turbulence zone directly to our east. Directly to our south, we have an incredibly large ice zone. So this is definitely, we kind of picked a lucky day to do this. For those of you who are interested in doing all this with us, by the way, this is a multiplayer environment. Like I said for everybody in my note the other day, if you're interested in joining us, all you have to do is pick a location within a half an hour of this nice little airport down here. This is Praha Vodolchi, and we'll see you when we get there, kind of a thing. Let's go ahead and take a look now real quickly at our arrival procedure. Again, I'm going to be coming from down here. I'm going to be proceeding direct to this VOR, swinging up to Ekrot, and then from Ekrot, depending on what the wind ends up being, I'm going to use one of the two ND approaches directly into our particular destination. I'm going to scroll down here real quickly. But you can see real quickly that everything uses the same initial approach point. Now, the scary thing here is, and this is what's really not fun, if we do end up on runway 10, everybody is going to basically be crossing this way and then turning around using a course reversal and then swinging back down to land. So it's going to get a little chaotic pretty quickly. For those of you who are coming from the north, you may wish to fly a single revolution of the holding pattern. If you actually take a look at the goal-up arrival here, you probably want to do that one, especially if you started right here. For folks coming directly out of the west, you've pretty much, it's going to take you about 25 minutes to get to where we are, so I'm not too worried about it. Folks coming out of the south, you can pretty much proceed direct, and we'll see you all when we get there. Okay, let's go ahead and get everything started here. So switch back to here. I'm going to go ahead and take a look, see kind of who's this way. Nice. Good afternoon. Hello, everybody. Exactly. Oh, no. Oh, no. Yeah, I had a feeling a lot of people would be doing this. But like I said, most folks did want to see this kind of in Europe during their time. So this is kind of a rare opportunity. All right, let's get this thing rolling. Going to go ahead and flip on our battery switches. Going to flip on our alternative switches, but not the avionics. We're going to turn on our strobe light and go ahead and turn the fuel mixture on, which only takes a moment to do. And we're going to go ahead and pop over to the left fuel tank. You can use either one of the fuel tanks. Usually they're going to tell you to always use the fuel tank that is the one that is fullest. So after that is done, I'm just going to swing over here and basically crank the thing after pushing the throttle up just a little tiny bit. And we should be more than enough to get this thing rolling. And that's all there is to it. Once I stabilize that RPM just a teeny tiny bit, I'll go ahead and flip on the other avionic display. We have a G1000 in this particular version of the Cirrus, which is not too bad here. And everything else is basically set and ready to rock. Now, one thing I did notice when I was checking this out earlier is the fact that we're basically going to be driving off the side of a cliff here with our airplane. We can't really do that safely in the real world. I'm sure I could get away with it in the simulator, but what I'm going to try to do is kind of do one of these things and keep it relatively safe. Other than that, everything else is looking pretty solid. Everything's looking pretty good right now. It's just a matter of getting us going. Flip on my pitot heat. I'm going to go ahead and dial in my initial altitude, which is going to be 6,000 feet today. I'm going to go ahead and dial in our navigation radio information. Taking a look on Chrome, I should say our sky vector real quickly. I can see that the first frequency I'm going to need is going to be 114.3, so I'll go ahead and dial that in right now. Set that to 114.30, like that. Swap that one over just like that. VLM is exactly who we hoped that it would be at this particular time. Go ahead and make a quick adjustment here. All right, looking good. Now our next frequency that we're going to be interested in, we don't really have to worry about until we get a lot closer to our actual destination. So that's being set. We'll go ahead and set our initial heading here. Initial heading here again, taking a quick little look at my notes fast. It looks like it's going to be, let's see, 33 degrees. So I'll just come down here to course and dial this into 33 degrees. Of course, make sure you get the right one. 33 degrees is right there. Perfect. And now it's just a matter of taking off and getting our flight going. So like I said before, I'm going to go ahead and swing to my left here. I don't want to go ripping down this mountain. That's probably going to be a really, really, really bad combination. For those of you who are going to be trying to join us at our destination, this is probably a pretty good time to take off. Total flight time today is going to be right around 24 minutes. So I'm going to very, very cautiously, I'm going to try to pull the nose of this aircraft up all the way as I go down this hill so we don't accidentally damage a very expensive airplane. Wow, I'm amazed the brakes can hold on a hill. That's actually pretty impressive. All right, swinging around this way, swinging around this way. Make sure I have a notch of flaps in. Looking pretty good. Now, when you're doing a soft field takeoff, you have to actually be really careful not to dig the actual front wheel into the ground. That can cause a lot of bad damage. So the way we do that is we're basically going to hold the controls back and pop a wheelie the entire duration of our takeoff. All right, smoothly. You don't want to hit the gas too hard, otherwise you suck a bunch of rocks in your propeller, which is really, really bad. Pull the control all the way back, and now we're going to get going. All right, looks pretty good. Woo, got a bit of a crosswind. Move our controls to the right just a teeny tiny bit. There we go. Oh boy, that's quite the crosswind. Once we get up to our rotate speed, we're going to start gently coming up. And we are on our way. Generally, when you're doing a soft field takeoff, you're going to be climbing at your VX for your initial climb out until we get to a safe altitude. Then we can go ahead and bring up our flaps. Oh boy, now this is going to be a windy flight, but I don't mind it. I like the challenge. All right, let's go ahead and take our initial turn here. And we can take a good look at Central Europe. Oh, looks like we have some other multiplayer folks. See them way off in the distance.
20 miles northwest of Lima Kilo Tango Alpha.
All right, that looks pretty good right there. All right, so our VY in a Cirrus SR22 is going to be right around 108 knots.
Squawk 0363, red 64.
All right, looks pretty good. Let's see how things are going over in the chat as far as everybody else goes.
2,100 feet.
Antonio, to answer your question, I used to do quite a bit of flying, but I haven't actually flown for real in many, many, many years. Unfortunately, it gets tremendously expensive, which is why I've been spending most of my time with that kind of stuff, with flight simulation. It's all good. Alright, it looks like a pretty good speed. We're just going to be climbing out pretty gently at this particular point. There's going to be a pretty big difference between what the GPS says I'm supposed to be doing over here on the right and what we're actually going to be doing. As a matter of fact, if I wanted to, and this is kind of a neat trick, you can actually put this away so you don't even look at it, because I don't really need it for today's flight for what I'm doing. But now that we've got ourselves a little bit of altitude underneath us, I'm actually going to flip on the automatic pilot. So I'll come down here, I'll flip this to navigation mode, flight director is going to be on, and I'll flip on indicated airspeed as well. I'm probably going to raise it up just a teeny tiny bit. Good. Now we can start concentrating on getting everything else in the aircraft all nice and set. All right, let's go ahead and take a look. Oh, that is a very aggressive way to take that turn, but sometimes that does that. All right, our altitude looks good, our speed looks good, our VOR is getting caught up just a little bit. Exactly. All right, let's see who's joining us today. We have a Peter Holt. We have a MigFlow way over on that side. Just trying to take a peek. I didn't expect too many folks. And then again, you never know what we're going to bump into in a little while, so that should be fun. Okay, let's start getting everything set up for our landing already. We've got quite a bit to think about. I'm going to go to my bearing. I'm going to go ahead and actually flip this to an ADF bearing, which seems a little crazy, but you'll see why we need to do that in a minute. I'm also going to be flipping on my DME. I'm not a fan of that being on DME Nav 1. I'm actually going to go ahead and change that in just a moment. To change that, we can just come over to ADF and DME, and we can actually wake our way all the way down to here, and you can change it to Nav 2. So the interesting thing here, I had that, for those of you who missed all that, I posted that yesterday. I can go ahead and open it up real quickly so you all can kind of take a look at what we're doing. So I just took off from Tabor, and I'm proceeding directly right along this line towards Vozic, and then I'm going to go ahead to Vlasim, and then I'm going to go ahead and set myself down. So you're really welcome to fly from any of these regions. Like I said, about a 25-30 minute flight should get you to exactly where you want to go. All right, let's pop back over here. So now my DME is set to mode 2. You're probably wondering about that, but the reality is I'm going to be using the DME at the airport as a way to figure out how far away from the ground I am. The frequency I'm going to need for that is going to be 11075. So to do that, I'm just going to switch between this mode, set it to 110 and set it to 75, swap. And I wouldn't be surprised if we don't pick anything up yet, because we're a pretty good distance away. Whoa! That turbulence is real. We're a pretty good distance away from our destination. Next thing I'd like to do is I'd like to go ahead and set up the ADF so we can use that for landing should we need to do it. For those of you who are curious where I'm getting all these frequencies from, I'm actually going to go ahead and pop this back up for just a moment. You can see that if I want to use any of these approaches, whether I want to use 28 or 10, that we have all the frequencies listed directly on here. This is where I got the information for the DME. And for us, the 416 is going to be what we're going to be using for the NDB/the ADF. So I'm going to go ahead and pop that back over here. Let's go ahead and get that 416 in. All right, looks pretty good so far. Again, I'm just using the big knob to go between the numbers. I'm using the little knob to go ahead and set myself up like that. Enter, enter, and now I'm all set. Now, hopefully, when we get a little bit closer to our destination, this is going to suddenly pop on. And I imagine that it probably will. We're also going to have to start thinking about landing and all that other good stuff pretty shortly as well. Let's see how things are going on this thing. Is there TCAS in this aircraft? Absolutely. Oh, that's so cool. So I got a little bit of history with Czechia. My great-grandmother was actually from Czechoslovakia. It was interesting. She emigrated to this country right in the early 1900s. My grandmom actually could speak Czechoslovakian to an extent, which was always kind of wild. Because just as kids, you know, you kind of imagine what that was like. But so that's one of the other reasons why I selected coming here today. All right, we're going to go ahead and reduce my power now that I've gotten to my cruise altitude to 75 knots. And I'm actually looking pretty darn good right now. I'm not thrilled with the way the autopilot is flying this VOR right now, so I'm actually going to set it to be manual so we can have a little bit more control over things like that. Flip this to heading. If you're flying on GPS mode, you basically don't need to do this, but I'm doing it just to keep my flight a little bit smoother. Now, one of the coolest things about the Cirrus is the fact that a lot of the engine controls are automatic. You know, if I were to grab on a mixture handle and start pulling it back, nothing bad would happen because it's going to automatically control it. The other really wild thing is the RPM is actually set based on the power setting. So when I set this thing to 75% power, it's going to go ahead and set itself like that. Oh, I'm still cheating. No cheating. No cheating. Okay, cheating disabled. Oh, it looks like I've got all sorts of folks now. I'll have to move my head over here and see what's going on. Looks like we have a Peter Holt, we have a Mig Flo, we have a Malk 51. Is anybody sneaking up behind me here? We got a Slap and Ellie. And let me see what's over on that side. Nice, 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 nice. Yes. Okay. So now let's go ahead and start thinking about landing. I know it seems like it's a little early into our flight to be thinking about that, but believe it or not, we have to now. Otherwise, we're going to get kind of caught short later on. So let's see here. We'll go flip back over to my approach plates. The wind is still coming out of the south at this point that we know of. So let's go ahead and take a look at things real fast. So if it's going to be coming out of the south, especially kind of in this general direction, we're going to be stuck on using runway 10. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to Ekrat, use the NDB to line ourselves up with the runway, cross over the runway, and then turn around. So let's go ahead and get ourselves the instrument approach for that real quick. That's a GNSS. We don't want an RNAV. This is the one I want to use. Bingo. So we're going to get here, which is, let's see here, 34.5 nautical miles away from VOZ. Then we're going to take a left turn to a heading of 281. We're going to use the NDB to cross the runway. We're going to proceed about 6 nautical miles, hit this final approach point, flip ourselves around, and then use the NDB to line ourselves up all the way down to the ground. This is going to be a little crazy. For those of you who will be joining us during our landing, I would recommend taking the RNAV for runway 10. It's just going to be a little bit easier to fly. And again, we'll go ahead and dial that in directly in just a moment. So let's go ahead and flip back over to the simulator, and let's go ahead and dial that in. Proc. I'm going to go ahead and do select approach. I'm going to go ahead and select NDB 10, transition Ekrat. That's all I have to do. Now I can just come down here, and I can say activate. Now notice nothing weird happened there. The reason nothing weird happened is, remember, I'm just basically flying this one on our own. Speaking of which, we've already crossed our first waypoint, and we now need to start heading over to our next waypoint. So we want to get ourselves on 114.3, which we've got. We're going to go ahead and swing ourselves around to tree 9er. Actually, 357 is going to get us directly to Ekrat. Let's go to the navigation mode again.
30.28 for red 64.
And we're going to go ahead and swing around just like that.
Haslam approach red 646,000 feet.
All right.
Approach continue to PR 522 as planned.
Now, for those of you kind of curious how things are going as far as the rest of the flight goes, I'll actually zoom out. You can see we just about crossed it. I'll zoom out just a teeny tiny bit more so you can kind of see what's going on here. And you can see basically what we're doing is we're trying to cross this VLM and a VOR. Then we're going to follow this line to go ahead and get ourselves up to that point where we can then start using the ADF to line ourselves up. You can actually see that this approach has got that funky little reversal turn towards the end, which is just going to make things a little bit more interesting. Now, one thing that is bothering me just a little bit is there are other aircraft flying around us. Gotcha. A few other aircraft. By the way, I'm on the North Europe server, if anybody's curious as to what. I think if you hit escape, you can click here and you can actually set exactly what server that you want it to be on. Again, just trying to make things a little bit easier for everybody. All right, we definitely need to think about starting to descend already, which sounds a little crazy. So let's see here. Descent, we need to be at 3,100 feet by the time we are 34 nautical miles away from that first DMA. So I'm actually going to go back to CDI. Whoop, I didn't mean to do that. I've done that about 1,000,000 times like everybody else has. Go to PFD, bearing 2, and I'm just going to double check it. So when this is 34.5 and I'm on the 357, we will be having crossed Ekrat. So then we can go ahead and start using our ADF. At least I hope that data should be available for us by the time we get there. So other than that, it's a pretty relaxing flight. We need to get down to 3,100 feet in about 30 miles. So that's about, not too much, 1,000 feet every 10 nautical miles. It's not too bad. But again, we'll start working on that at any time. I'm going to go ahead and set my altitude selector. Drop it down to 3,100 feet. And I'm not really going to start my actual descent until I get a little bit closer. Now, another common question that I get quite a bit is people always ask me when it's time to switch fuel tanks in an aircraft. Well, if it's this I see I've got a couple folks who are going to be meeting me there. The safest way to do it is simply to look at what time of day it is. For example, I notice that it's going to be 4:12. That's going to be the local time. Actually, that can't be right. 16:12. Okay, maybe I said the time wrong when I was doing it. But basically, anything between 0 and the half hour, use the left tank. Anything between the half an hour and the hour, use the right tank. It's just a nice and simple way to do it, and it kind of keeps things tracked. Obviously, keep a close eye on your actual procedures, because some aircraft use different procedures when you're actually going to be changing that. All right, take a look at my distance here. I'm about 6 nautical miles away. I'm not going to start descending until I get about 15 nautical miles away from the Ekrat position. All right, now we get the nice relaxing part of the flight. It's a stretch. Not too bad. Sorry we've done this at such a strange time of day, but one of the things I had done when I was testing this earlier is we tried this, at night. And the other thing I actually found out much later is you can actually set any time of day you want and still have other aircraft available. But I just wanted to do something a little bit different to help kind of meet a different audience. The bummer is my usual West Coast audience I don't see because it's like 7 o'clock in the morning for those folks. Okay, excellent. So I was right. So it is about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Yeah, that's right. I'm glad that I did the math, because otherwise it'd get pretty darn dark, and then there's not much to say. Now, just flying over here, enjoying the sights real quick. This reminds me a lot of the game Operation Flashpoint. Obviously, there's going to be reasons for that, which I'm sure you're well aware, but it's just so wild to actually see the countryside that a lot of that stuff is actually based on. And one thing I'm also noticing is just kind of looking around, it's like you've got a lot of mountains in the north and a lot of mountains in the south, but the relative this part is just kind of hilly, which is kind of neat. Glaciated, I think, is the word there, but that's perfectly fine. All right, how are we doing for distance? Okay, when this number says 15, we're going to start a descent. Good time to check everything over. All right, just looking over my flight plan about the 50th time. I was actually looking at this yesterday morning, sitting there basically studying this thing, going, okay, what if this goes wrong, what happens? If this goes wrong, what happens? If this goes wrong, what happens? Just kind of going through every possibility, if I lose this. The good news is everybody's well aware right now, is the fact that the visibility is actually spectacular today. I'm flying using instrument flight rules, but I don't need to be not looking out the window kind of a thing. This is going to be very interesting. I'm super curious to see what happens when everybody gets there at about the same time. I have no problem flying a holding pattern, but you know how it is. All right, just a moment. I'm going to go ahead and start my descent. And then bingo. Does everybody see this needle right here? This just told me that ADF that we need is now working. This is so cool because when this blue line is pointing at this line for 281 degrees, that will literally mean that the airport is exactly lined up with us and with the actual runway itself. That's just one of the coolest things about using what they call an RMI, which is really, really, really nice. But we're getting a little old school at the same time as a little kind of new school. All right, stand by for descent. Taking a look down here, looks pretty good. Plenty of fuel in this thing. This Cirrus is a wild aircraft, and I just cannot get over how incredibly expensive they are. Like, it's just mind-bogglingly expensive for an aircraft that doesn't have retractable landing gear. All right, got to kind of enjoy this pretty good. Definitely lovely country. I mean, I got to imagine driving on these roads, it's just like field, 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 field. It's kind of like the western part of the United States, but it's definitely a little bit hillier. One thing I did read when I was doing some research for this is apparently we have some of the highest concentration of rail in the entire planet in Czechia. I can't confirm that one, but you know, I always like rail too. Pull Maverick, chop the throttle, see, I'll go by. No, you have to hold down the brakes like the movie Hot Shots. It's a very good movie if you have not seen it, by the way. You need to see it if you're an aviator. It's pretty good stuff. Obviously, there's a movie Airplane too, but I'm pretty sure everybody's seen that at this particular point. All right, let's go down. I was distracted. So the way I'm going to go down today is I'm going to reduce my throttle a little bit. I'm going to press the VS 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That is all I needed to do to get us descending. Usually you're going to end up at just about 18, 17 inches or so in order to get yourself a pretty safe descent. Okay, folks, let's start thinking about that landing. I'm going to go over it one more time, just in case. Again, like I said, I get a little paranoid myself, making sure I'm doing everything properly here. All right, let's go ahead and show you what I can see so you can see what I'm thinking. So right now, I am right here, just shy of Ekrot. What I'm going to do is I'm going to proceed direct, get down to 3,100 feet, find where my NDB or my ADF points to 281, take a left turn, follow the NDB across the airport, wait for the NDB to flip. Then I'm going to proceed direct until I cross the 6.1 DME for the airport. I'm going to head on 326, take myself a big old left turn, realign the NDB for 101 degrees, and then once I cross the 6.1 again, I will start a descent right down onto the runway. Wow. So for those of you who are doing this the safe way and want to use the ILS approach, knock yourselves out. Otherwise, I highly recommend if you're using an aircraft with the G1000, like I said once before, you use the RNAV approach because it's going to get you out of the way of all the traffic that's going to be coming in just a second. All right, let's go pop back over and let's start thinking about our landing. All right, check it out. So when this ADF needle, like I was just saying a second ago, is pointing due left, that means that we're perfectly lined up to go ahead and take a left turn to the runway. As a matter of fact, one thing that I've learned to do ages ago is I'm actually going to shut off heading hold, which means now I can just crank this thing all the way to where I want to go, which is going to be 281. And now, as soon as those two needles are lining up with each other, which they will do just momentarily, I should technically be able to look out the window and see my destination. Kind of cool. For those of you who are looking for a visual, I'll go ahead and flip over to this mode. You can see how close I am. All right, let's do it. So if I look out my left window, when this turn finishes, I should be facing the runway. I'm going to increase my descent rate just a little bit here. Let's see how we did.
Approach on ONE 24.68.
124.68 red 6.
There it is. Not bad. Not bad at all.
Wheelie approach red 644.
Hey, it might be ancient technology, but it still works all right. Looking over here, you can see that basically I went a little wide there. I should have crossed across sooner, but I was distracted looking at my approach plate. Darn. All right, let's go ahead and get rid of all this. We don't need it anymore. We can basically do all this on our own at this particular point. Now, the aircraft seems to not want to go in the direction I'm asking it to, which doesn't surprise me. And we're also very high. So next thing I want to go ahead and take a look at is getting down to 2,500. So we were much, much too high from here. I should have paid more attention to my flying. Beautiful. Look out the window. Looks like I have some traffic coming up in just a moment. Answering Momadden, I actually am not sure. The big thing that makes this interesting is I intentionally chose one of these. I could have done Prague's main airport, which is actually basically right there on the left. I wanted to pick something a little bit quieter. And one of the things that anybody who actually did a little bit of reading about the airport diagram would know the fact there's no place to land big airplanes. And as a matter of fact, all these approaches, believe it or not, don't even have the capability to take large aircraft. So it's pretty neat. Who's the big manufacturer? I'm always thinking, I know they do, I'm just trying to think about that for a second. The L-39, I think, is a Czech aircraft. Oh, yep, there it is. Swing to my left just a teeny tiny bit. So Peter, the reason these approaches are this complicated, I'm just going to say this is actually not a complicated approach. One of the things I'm doing to make it complicated is picking the non-GPS, one of those particular approaches. If I chose the regular GPS or even the, that's it. Thank you so much, Lilt. One of the reasons I went ahead and used this one is because it demonstrates a little bit old school flying. Yeah, there it is. Awesome. Okay, so now what we're doing is we're going directly towards the airport, and we're actually following the NDB on the airport. If I actually were to zoom in a little bit, you could actually see it. For those of you looking for a visual, I'll go ahead and pop this one open for just a minute. Let me go ahead and flip this to this mode real fast. There we go. So you can see very clearly that I'm proceeding directly towards the airport itself. Go ahead and flip this one back out. I can fly in NDBs just as well as anybody. One thing I am noticing is that my DME is starting to rate 18.2 nautical miles. Crunchy Bob, I'm not actually sure. I just did the default flight planning inside of the actual program. The other thing I did a minute ago, I don't know if you joined late, is I did go to approach and I selected the approach and went through all that procedure as well. So that may have had an impact on it. I know that there have been some really big problems with the actual displays. I've seen it where somebody's display turns on the right, but it doesn't come on the left. I've seen all those kinds of bugs for quite a bit. All right, we're down to 2,500 feet. We're going to go ahead and take a look out the window. So just to quickly answer Peter's question, Peter, sorry, I'm probably mispronouncing it, apologies. It's actually very interesting that approaches like this one are very simple. If you want to see a terrifying approach, take a look at the arrival to Heathrow Airport. It's insanity. There are like 3 or 4 holds in a row. They will actually give you permission to approach the airport, and then they won't talk to you again for like 15 minutes, and by that time you've traveled over 100 miles. It's incredible how complicated that can actually get. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at our situation here. So I'm seeing that I'm about 15.3 nautical miles away from the airport itself. I'm proceeding directly at it. However, good question, Matt. You know, I'm not going to tell too many stories here, but don't always trust ATC. At the end of the day, it's the pilot's responsibility to make sure you don't crash into the mountain. Ironically, if anybody's flown in the Rockies, it gets a little crazy insane as far as go up, go down, go up, go down, go up, go down. Oh, it's crazy. And I'm actually ignoring air traffic control, which is really naughty of me because, again, normally in the real world you would. Okay, we've already developed a problem, and this is awesome. So I'm noticing that this arrow, which is pointing towards the ADF/NDB, is slowly shifting left. The reason for that is because we're being pushed off. If I actually flip the wind on real quick, I notice there's a 27 knot crosswind, which is insane. But having flown in the real world, I've been in 92, 95 knot winds before. And it's like being a fighter jet, even though you have a propeller hanging off the front of you. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to figure out a way to get this needle to go back over here. So the method you use is you actually turn into it. So I'm actually going to take this aircraft, as crazy as this seems, and I'm going to point it this way to cause the needle and the NDB to go this way so we can realign it with the end of the runway. This is going to be a crazy bumpy landing, and unfortunately we do have a crosswind limit in this aircraft. Watching my clock, it's almost time for a fuel change, for anybody who's keeping track of that as well. I'm going to go down, take a quick look right here. Whoa, I haven't seen that in a while. Ever since these new patches, things have been running a lot smoother than they did in the past. Yeah, I don't know if you saw my weather thing at the beginning of the video, but there was a massive turbulent front literally behind us as we're cruising around. I'm seeing a little... Oh, hold on. Interrupt my thoughts. In the row. Oh, there it is. See him? Whoa! Uh-oh, something's happening. I thought they fixed that. Oh, check it out. I believe it's a 15 knot crosswind. Whoever this chap is, I'm about to cut them off or they're about to cut me off. That's fine though. I should probably flip my display back on so I can see traffic. Interesting, the traffic's not showing up. My transponder is on. Interesting. Okay, so back to what I was doing. I'm noticing here that even though I'm pointing to the left, this needle is barely moved in that amount of time. So I'm actually going to even more aggressively point the aircraft directly towards the left to push the airport basically to my right. If I want to go back to my display over on this side, you can see very clearly that that crosswind has literally snapped me and pushed me away, even though this is where I want to be. But again, I don't need this little map in order to know where I am, because this needle will always point to where I need to go, at least in this particular case. Again, if we were doing like an ILS approach or something, this would be a very different experience, in which case I could literally just flip it on and just do it. As a matter of fact, if I want to be really naughty, I could actually come over here and change my CDI, and you can even see what the ILS approach looks like without me even actually being able to see it. But for now, I'm going to make things nice and complicated because I can. All right, looking pretty good. Our speed is pretty good. We're going to be doing our fuel tank change in just a minute. I've got this gentleman right on my left-hand turn. I actually have no time in gliders. So it's interesting you see that, Peter, because like I said, I've always been super fascinated with them, but the idea of not being able to just turn the engine on and go is just a terrifying concept to me. Fun fact, by the way, if you look directly at the front window, I can see our airport, and I believe we've actually reset. See it? So our needle is almost perfectly back where I want it to be. Wow, that's a strong crosswind. Yeah, I wouldn't want to do anything too crazy in it. Like I say, helicopter is about as extreme as I'll go as far as airports and navigation and stuff like that goes. All right, once this is back to where I want it to be, all I have to do is take a right and just get that needle centered again. A 30-knot crosswind is a lot. That's a 9 degrees. 9 or depends on my speed. I got to work it out again real quick. There, it's perfect. So I'm actually, instead of going back to here, which would just make that wind push me right off course, I'm actually going to crab the aircraft by about, let's say, 9 degrees, I think should get me pretty good here. And now we're basically going to fly sideways across our beautiful runway in order to go ahead and actually get everything lined up. We're actually close enough right now. I could probably get ourselves a little bit more centered and even home in just a little bit, which is very naughty. Okay, let's start thinking about landing. Look around, make sure I'm not about to cut anybody off. All right, we have a couple coming from this direction. Again, if these were IFR conditions, this would be a little bit more exciting, but with that wind, I think that's almost worse than an IFR condition, to be honest. All right, let's do it. Okay, start thinking. All right, I'm going to start crabbing my aircraft a little bit to the left now that I've got everything nice and done. Yes, I can see the airport, but again, we're trying to cross this little teeny tiny thing right here. All right, I wish the heading hold would actually do what I asked it to do. Apparently, they haven't fixed that part yet. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at my approach plate one more time. I'll go ahead and say Chrome. So let's go back down to the ADF. Of course, I shouldn't be doing this while I'm flying. All right, so we're about to cross here. We're going to go here until this is 6.1, tree 26. That's the heading I needed to know. All right, let's go back. Go take a look and see how things are going on this side. Looks pretty good to me. All right, looks like we're going to actually, look at how strong this crosswind is. It has actually blown us off our beautiful effort to try to crab it. But that's perfectly fine. In just a moment, you're going to see this needle suddenly snap the other direction, and then we're going to go start keeping an eye out for our DME here. Man, this is going to be a heck of a landing today. Is that my audience? No, not really. We picked a terrible time of day to do this today. Well, there's the airport we're going to. Ooh, look at the windsock. Oh, that's not cool. Okay, I know what I'm doing. All right, we've crossed the NDB. I thought they fixed that stuttering bug. It was running beautifully. Okay, when this is 6 nautical miles, we make our heading 326. We can take a big donut and basically swing around. There it goes. All right, folks who are behind me, I'm going to go ahead and switch this mode here. We've got a couple. Not sure exactly where they are. Oh, man, am I getting blown off course here. NDB was not the correct choice for this today. I should have done a regular localizer approach. This wind is just too darn strong.
Docketing Tower, red, 642 miles.
All right, again, once this hits about 6 nautical miles, we'll do our 326 turn.
Red 64 Docketing Tower. Make straight in runway 10. Altimeter 29.29 with 1.
Yeah, I don't know what it was, but the perch that came before it was wonderful. Like, it was like butter. You know, I don't exactly have a weak computer, and I'm currently saving up to get myself another one. Yay for YouTube dollars. By the way, while we're coming down here and just kind of doing things, is there anything you folks would like to see in upcoming weeks? I've noticed that viewership is down like 75% since the beginning of the month, but obviously everybody's getting good at things. I think I was going to do a video on ILS and holding patterns this week, but after that, we're pretty much good to go. So if there's anything you want to see in a video, just kind of toss it up there. I'll put a post out pretty soon to go ahead and kind of ask folks to see what they're interested in doing. But again, that's just like I said, throw it up there in the chat, and I'll just kind of make a little notes. Otherwise, I'll probably slow things down just a teeny tiny bit. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. Stand by. Oh boy. Crack the knuckles. All right, here we go. So this is going to be a fun approach because we're going to be doing it without a glide slope. Gotcha. I'm not going to do that now. We're right about to land. 6 nautical miles. Let's do it. 326. This is our course reversal. Let's do it. Swinging around real quickly here. I'm just going to look. All right. So how long do you need to go in this direction? About a minute is probably going to be safe, but honestly, that crosswind is so strong, we could probably get away with doing it for 30 seconds. So when this says 1631, oh, by the way, time to change fuel tanks. Perfect. So when this says 1631, we're going to go ahead and turn the aircraft all the way around and then get ready for our approach. Get ready to turn around. I am making notes of everybody's things in the comments, by the way. I'm just kind of concentrating here. Let's do it. Okay, time to land the plane. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to spin the entire airplane around opposite the direction we were just traveling in. And then what we're going to do is continue along this heading until this needle points at exactly 101 degrees, which is going to mean we are lined up properly with the runway. Then we're going to proceed direct along it until we get within 6 nautical miles. When we hit 6 nautical miles, what we're actually going to start doing is descending the plane manually. We're basically making our own glide slope. People who saw my videos explaining like the localizer approach or the SDF, you've seen me do that already. I'm on the Northern Europe server for those of you who are joining. Yeah. Mountain flying, I'm not sure what you mean, Molnar. Let's see, explanation on how to operate different planes. I mean, I did stuff like that. I'm just going through it. Yeah, the live streams are killer, though, because you can't pre-record a live stream. Okay, get ready to land. So when this needle points, actually what I'm going to do is shut off heading hold mode once we level the wings. Live online should do the trick. Go ahead and shut off heading hold mode. Now I'm going to set my heading to the landing heading, which is a 101 degrees. Now watch this. And that was not the right button to push. Alright, right there. Beautiful. So when this ADF needle points exactly here, it's time to take our left turn. Except we have a 24 knot crosswind still. So my left turn is actually going to be a left to a very aggressive right turn, as you'll see in just a minute. All right, we just relax a little bit. By the way, once we cross our final approach fix, we'll begin a 500 feet per minute descent, and we're going to do that for about 3.5 minutes. If we don't see it, we'll go ahead and check that out before. All right, get ready, get ready. The big thing I'm trying to join is I'm trying to figure out exactly how many folks, or do I have European fans, do I have American fans, things like that, and try to gear it towards that. All right, time to turn. All right, final approach, let's do it. Landing lights are on, stand by, fuel tank is on fullest, gun fulls, gas, undercarriage, mixture, propeller, flaps, lights, speed. We're going to be doing 100 knots. Here we go. All right, I'm actually going to push the plane a little bit to the right because that crosswind is just insanity. So for folks of you who are going to be landing in just a moment or two, don't forget to go ahead and park on the right side of the airport, or in the grass would be even better if that's cool with you. Because if you park on the grass, I've actually shut the automatic pilot off. I'm not thrilled with the way it's behaving. There we go. I'd flip that back on real quick. All right, about 100 knots should do it. All right, let's look out the window. Anybody there? Yes, we do. All right, Raymond, right for here. Once this says 6 nautical miles, and begin descent now. And they just gave me permission to land. Down, down. Vertical speed mode, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 500 feet per minute is 3 degrees.
Clear to land.
Let's do it.
0 red 64.
We are way getting blown off. You know what? I'm just going to do it by hand. So what we're trying to do now is we're trying to get the NDB to push itself back to where it needs to go. But like I said, this crosswind is so intense, it's unbelievable. Move my seat forward a little bit so I can see what I'm doing. Ah, that's actually pretty good. So now we're trying to hold about 500 feet per minute downwards. But like I said, this crosswind is incredible. Get my plane all ready to land. Okay, so you want to hear some horror stories, Rocky? I was doing a training flight at night one time, and we just had finished a landing up at like a big Air Force base, not too far away from where I live, and we took off, and all of a sudden it got really quiet, and it was just like, oh, what's the deal with that? When we went ahead and pushed the radio button, it didn't make the static noise. When we looked, I have a button bound to it, Donald. So we went ahead and pushed the button forward to try to see exactly what was going to happen. You know, it was like, why is it so quiet in the plane? Moments later, when we looked up and we got clear of the actual landing lights, we realized the entire electronic system of the plane was completely dead. Oh, so Facile, that's an awesome question. So what you do is you take the degree of descent. Remember, if it's a 5% descent, that means you need to lose 5 feet for every 100 feet. So that's pretty straightforward, which simply means if you're doing, let's say, 100 knots, that simply means you need to be about 500 feet per minute in order to safely land the airplane. Oh, the wind is getting better as we get lower. I am definitely seeing some folks down there. Like I said, I'm on the Northern European server. My descent rate is much too high. Again, I'm trying to talk and fly at the same time. So, Peter, trimming is one of those things where every flight simulator does it differently. And the safest way to say it is you just got to keep playing with it. In the real aircraft, trimming is easier because you can actually feel it in your hands. I'll give you that, definitely. But flight simulators, every single one is different. And the other really big difference, too, which is really, really scary, is the fact that in the real world, aircraft tend to groove. And that's like the best way to say it. Oh, if you're looking for a specific server, if you press escape and click your name, it tells you exactly what server you're on. I don't know if that helps anybody, but... Alright, we are within minimums, and we took about 3.5 minutes to get there. I'm looking straight down at the end of the runway. I can see the runway, so I'm going to go ahead and land the plane. I did not put my minimum altitude in. I should have done so, but I was answering questions. And again, the big thing here is you want to make sure you don't exceed your minimum until you can see the end of the runway. Alright, slowing down nice and gently. Once I get on the ground, I'm going to pull into the grass. Anybody who would like to go ahead and land afterwards may do so. Got to get down to 75 knots. I love crosswind landings in the real world. Yeah. Now, I hate to say it, but this is going to sound naughty, but I really like X-Planes trim. It's very sensitive, and it's a good kind of sensitive for people who do sims. My least favorite trim is probably DCS. Alright, that's a terrible time to get some stutters. Alright, going to make sure the back right wheel comes down first. And that's a terrible time for stutters as well. Alright, nice. Whoa, that's a crosswind. Nice. In the real world, usually assumes, hey, we got a guest. Ha ha ha. Awesome. I'm going to go ahead and pull off the runway myself here. We're in the North European server. Alright, I'll go visit this chap over here. I should look behind me to see if anybody else is coming.
Going to 133.08 red 64.
Oh, I'm Red 64. Speaking of which, I was looking to change the name of my channel to Red 64 rather than, my current one, because it's a little more anonymous and stuff like that. All right, we come join this chap right here. Good morning, sir. Good morning. No, it's not my best landing on a live stream, but that stuttering was terribly timed. By the way, don't forget to lift up your elevator when you're bouncing around in the grass like this. Much safer. Gotta push myself all the way. By the way, there's technically a grass runway here. Brakes. Of course, I'm doing the very naughty thing and leaving my landing lights on and positively blinding this poor guy right here. Yeah, just what I was thinking. I actually got that from DCS, if anybody's curious where I got it from. All right. Park and brake. Of course, when you're just sitting here on the ground, shut my landing light off so I don't blast anybody when they come in. And let's see what we've got coming in. Yeah, I'm not going to lie, Facile. When I was landing in the real world, it was so difficult to smoothly land the plane in any form of turbulence. It was like, not that you crossed your fingers, but it was like, I hope this one goes okay. Home often, you got to be a little more specific on what you mean by aerobatics. Are you referring to things like chandelles, or are you referring to, you know, like a stunt show where you do a bunch of like snap rolls and aileron rolls and slides and stuff like that? I can do some of those things. All right, I'm basically going to sit here and chill. I'm actually going to kill my engine because I have no reason to burn fake gas. Nice. Shut everything off. I'm really disappointed my TCAS doesn't work properly. I don't know. Why is the propeller not stopping? I shut you down. All right, let's see what we got. We got, looks like Ronald 1302 is doing a go around. Yeah, I miss stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, this wasn't bad. I really goofed up with that NDB. I was spending way too much time reading things and not enough time paying attention to words. Oh, about to get buzzed by this chap named Ronald here. 1302. Let's see who else we have all lined up here. All right, just kind of looking up real fast. Again, I'm looking for what people are interested in and kind of how I can spend my time. I'm probably going to be breaking things down a little bit differently, probably not posting quite as much because it does take quite a bit of time, especially with the live streams. All right, just taking a look real fast. Yeah, I know, really? Look at the windsock. It's incredible. But again, I've landed in stuff like this before in the real world, and I didn't want to fly a couple days afterwards. It was literally that bad. If you're in a little propeller jockey, like, notice I've shut my propeller off. It's still running. All right, do I have anybody else who's still on approach here? I can't actually tell. Facile, let's see here. I don't do any FS economy. It's not really my thing. I don't have time for that. It's a really cool thing, and I think it should be built into the game by default. Like, one of the biggest complaints I get about flight sims is there's nothing to do. You know, I just enjoyed that flight, and I love the challenge of navigating, and my approach was, while not perfect, it was more than close enough for, you know, standards or anything like that. Oh, that's interesting. I didn't realize that. I'm just looking right here. This guy's, oh, there's the bus. Let's see, I can't say, oh, we got somebody coming in now. Gonna come join us on our little kind of thing here. Another person in a Cirrus. Oh, the funny thing is, he might... Oh, he's coming right for us. Now, let's see what number he's got on the tail, though. Wow, I didn't realize you could do that in a Cirrus. That's pretty good. All right, folks, we're kind of getting towards the end here. Read the question. Oh, okay, because I thought that the live chat could actually go ahead and hang on to things for that later on, because you can actually see the history of it as you watch. Good suggestion, though. I'll keep that in mind. So we're getting close to the end. Does anybody have any questions for the good of the order, so to speak, before we kind of sign off? I expect to see a poll later in the week, by the way, asking where to go next. Because at this point, I think, nice. At this point, we've done a pretty good job of kind of catching all that stuff. See, this really should be the picture that I take for it. As a matter of fact, I'm going to take it as a picture. All right. Z06 is about to take a right. Okay. Anybody have any questions? It could be anything flight simulator related. Yeah, I mean, yeah, like I said, I'm trying. If I have not responded to a comment, I kind of apologize, but I literally have been leveled. I've gone from literally 1,000 subscribers to almost 13,000 subscribers in like 30 days. So it's taking a quick... Oh, good question, Flabbergasted. I got to see how things are going. Oh, that's a great question. Okay. So as far as when is the next flight, I like the 2-week kind of timeline. That works fairly well for me. I'm going to, like I said, there'll be a couple polls this week. You can help me help you, kind of a thing like that, by responding to those as far as what we're going to do and stuff like that. Let's just take a look. What do you do if you're flying VFR and get lost? Oh, boy. You have to be a little more specific than that. But something like that. Oh, I see what you did there. All right, I'm going to wait until this chap lands, and then I'm going to call out the stream. Any other comments or anything like that? Actually, I can give you an even better answer to that, Firefox. One of the things is we have this thing called the 3 Cs: circle, confess. Circle. What is it? Circle, climb, and confess is what we call it. Yep. Volchody is the correct airport. And I've got a couple folks here, but again, I have no idea how Microsoft does their multiplayer servers. But I can tell there's a... Oh, we got somebody coming in. All right, here we go. Ronald 1302. Let's see. Okay, anyway, what I was saying on Firefox. The big thing is, yes. So you climb, you circle, you confess. It's called the 3 Cs of getting lost. Basically, you want to get some altitude. You don't want to go anywhere from where you are, hence the circling. And then, of course, you call up air traffic control and say, hey, we're such and such. And what they'll do for you is they'll say, could you go ahead and set to this particular frequency, and then press ident a few times. And then they'll be like, you're 10 miles south of such and such airfield or something like that. And the flight simulator, if you get lost in VFR, you really need to take more time to plan where everything is so you have a better idea of where you are. The key to getting lost is never getting lost. I know that sounds weird. But keep in mind, most of the aircraft do have GPS, so you can always get yourself out of a bad situation. Oh, we got somebody coming in. Here comes cargo guy. I'm loving these landings. I wish you could zoom in like TCS zooming, so you're like, zzz, and you can go all the way in. Oh, look at that crosswind. Cargo guy, check gear, check gear. Oh, yeah. This is going to be... Oh, easy. Don't sink. Don't sink. Pull up. Too low. Don't sink. Je ne sais pas. All right, hang on. I gotta watch this. I gotta watch this. Here we go. Easy, easy. Oh, God. Don't hit reverse. Don't hit reverse. It's too windy. Oh, good question. Ideal buttons to bind the trim to. For me, I have a joystick that is an up and down button. If you have something like that, you can go ahead and press that, and it works pretty darn well. Oh, we have 2 people coming in. This is great. All right, I guess I'm going to have to wait. I'm sorry. Good to know. Good to know. CFIT, grunk. This is great. I'm going to zoom out a little bit. We're going to have all sorts of folks here. I love this. I'm actually going to hang out. This was nice. This is nice. What is he doing? What is he doing? Is that his feet sticking through the bottom of the airplane? I didn't realize that's how the brakes worked on a Cessna 172. Oh, man. Be careful with that airplane, cargo guy. Very expensive. All right. I'm actually going to zoom out a little bit and get the picture of the whole clan here. Assuming I can get everybody in. All right, cargo guy. Bring yourself in nice and tight. I'm going to do the best I can here. Middle closer. Oh, come on. Exactly. Okay, I think that's about as best as I can do here. I can't really get both people in the shot at the same time. All right, folks, as usual, throw some comments. I'm going to have, exactly, I'm going to have some nice little things coming out later this week on ILS as well as holding patterns. Keep an eye out for a couple polls and where to go next. Otherwise, have a great afternoon for those of you in Europe. Have a great morning for those of you folks on my side of things. And good morning for those of you on the far west side of things. Have a good afternoon.